achieved.
What is up, everybody, and welcome into Studio de Jeffrey de Quarantine, where I'm excited to make a video for you this morning. Just trying to get back on track in terms of trying to get these things done daily. And obviously, it is tougher to come up with cowboy topics when the other topics in the world are so much more prevalent, whether it is COVID-19 or current protests and all of that. Makes it a little bit tougher to come up with Cowboys content, because it's less important, honestly. So I do have Cowboy content for you, including Dak Prescott, Blake Jarwin, things like that. But I also don't want people to think that I'm pretending sports is the most important thing right now. So I actually will start with a question from the last video from a guy named Jeff, who said, will the new Cowboys coaching staff tolerate players kneeling during the national anthem? They better. The Jones family, they better. We've reached the end of this. This is where we reached the tipping point. It's time to just say what's right and what's wrong. And I will say this: I'm ashamed that it took this long for me to learn what I've learned and to realize so many different things. I said this on the show yesterday, but when Colin Kaepernick first took a knee, pissed me off, because my life experience had told me national anthem is about honoring the military and being proud of the country that you live in. That's what it was about, right? So it pissed me off. And then every little misstep that I thought he had during his protest along the way, pig socks, Castro shirt, all these different things, I looked at those things and used it as a way to discredit and ignore his actual point. So I'm ashamed that it took a long time to get to the proper education level where I feel like I am now, where it's, people want to go after the rioters and the looting, and I am not pro-rioter or pro-looting, and I think that even all of those things, there's a lot that goes into that. How much is some of that a setup and people who are taking advantage of a situation? Like, it's real weird how you'll be like, hey, obviously there's a lot of good cops, but then you're condemning protesters based on the actions of a few. That's all very strange to me too. But I say all that to say this: I stand with Colin Kaepernick. Black Lives Matter. And I'm ashamed that it kind of took me getting to a point where I have a big enough following that if speaking the truth hurts our ratings enough, which it has before, if speaking the truth is going to hurt the ratings because that offends some people, good riddance. I don't care. That's where I am. I don't care. I don't want somebody who refuses to educate themselves or know the truth. I don't need you watching my content. I don't need my paycheck to be because of you. I don't need it, and I don't want it. And I'm ashamed of the fact that it took the point where I have a big enough following and have done enough in radio where I'll be okay no matter what. If the ratings tanked and the station was like, yeah, we're going to move on from you, Jeff, it's cool. I could get another job. So that's not even a real risk. Real risk is what Kaepernick did, where, and I guess he had plenty of people who are following him. He's fine career-wise. But where there aren't a lot of other places to go play football and get paid. And he got run out of the league for what he did. So, Black Lives Matter. I support protesters. There you go. And if you don't like that, I'm sure you'll leave an angry comment on my video, and I'm cool with that. I can delete those. The mute button on Twitter is a beast. But just try to educate yourselves, okay? Love you guys. Okay, so anyway, Dak Prescott, right? Moving on. Dak Prescott. I was reading the Bill Barnwell piece yesterday on ESPN, and I thought it was super interesting because it's one of the things, we keep talking about Dak Prescott's contract where it's 5 years versus 4. That's it. He wants shorter. They want longer. I think what's complicating the Dak thing is more than that. It's also who you're comparing him to, right? Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, what did they get? 32, 32 and a half, $33 million a year on their extensions, right? But let's do math here. Let's do the math. Because they signed extensions, but they still had a fifth-year option left. So, I'm the Cowboys right now, all right? I'm not Dak. I'm being the Cowboys. Goff and Wentz, after their first 4 years in the league, their next 5 years, they're making $28 million a year. You're asking for a giant raise over what they got because they still have a fifth-year option that has been exercised by the team before their 4-year extension at $32.5, $33 million or whatever kicks in. So we're talking years 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the 5 years we're talking about, right? Those same years for Dak to Wentz and Goff, you think that they're worth 28 and you're worth 36 or whatever? And hey, maybe he is. But like that's the interesting debate part that you can get to is comparing it that way because Dak's people are going to say, no, I didn't make what they made on their first deals because they were first-round picks and I was not. And now I'll be the Cowboys again. So what? Where you got drafted does not determine what your next contract is going to be. You made what you made on your first contract, and now we're paying you going forward. So without even expressing an opinion on who is in the right there, that's an interesting thing that would slow down a negotiation. Because as Dak's agent and Dak, you're viewing it as, well, no, their extensions were $32, $33 million a year. But Cowboys are like, right, but you're going into year 5 just like them, and years 5 through 9, it's $28 million a year. So it's a lot, and I think that it all leads to Dak's team will have to make the concessions, or the Cowboys will be comfortable tagging him for 1 year or 2 years. Because the only downside to the Cowboys by tagging Dak for multiple years is if, after those 2 years, they think he'd be mad enough to leave. And I don't think they think that, right? He likes being the quarterback of the Cowboys. He didn't want to go anywhere. So if we do the next 2 years on a franchise tag, I believe that adds up to $69.1 million. So less than 35 years for each year. And I get the certainty of it just being a year-to-year deal. I actually don't think the Cowboys have a problem with that. Is it a little bit disturbing because every other quarterback in the world, when the team knows you're a franchise guy, they just pay him? Well, welcome to the Cowboys being different, Welcome. So we'll see how it plays out. I do think, however it plays out, look, Dak's going to be the Cowboys quarterback in 2021, 2022, 23, 24, 25, 26. I think he's the guy, and he's going to be the guy. So I'm not worried about that. It's just a matter of how do they get there? Does it take 2 tags? Because if you tag him twice, you know what the third tag is? Well over $50 million. So that's a tough tag to use. So if you do go the route where you can't agree to the long-term deal, after 2 years, you're going to be bidding against the whole league for him. And if he plays well and a new TV deal comes about and that TV deal doubles the current TV deal or whatever, get your pocketbook ready and you'll wish you'd already had him under contract. So we shall see about all that, okay? Next. My buddy Austin said, what are your expectations? How much production can we actually expect from Blake Jarwin? All right, let's do the math equation to figure that out. Last year, Cowboys. Last year, the Cowboys tight ends were targeted. Jarwin 41 times, Witten 83 times. So tight ends had 124 targets. And Dalton Schultz had 2, if you want to count that. So 126 targets for tight ends, 95 catches for about 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. His stat line won't look like that because Witten obviously pulls that down. Witten was getting 8 yards a catch. Jarwin was getting 12 yards a catch. So that's not close. And I think Jarwin actually had a higher catch rate too. Now, right about the same. So Jarwin's better than Witten. That's not debatable. They had about the same catch percentage for 8 yards versus 12 yards. Jarwin touchdown percentage much higher. Jarwin better player than Witten, right? I will say that Jarwin ends up with about between 65 and 75 catches. And I will say his average stays at least at least 10.5. I'll say about 11 yards per catch. So let's say it's 70 catches. Is that 770 yards? So I'll say Jarwin is somewhere around 70 catches, somewhere around 800 yards, and 5 or 6 touchdowns. That'll be my Blake Jarwin prediction for this year. And now I'll count on you guys because, as I said, obviously there's no sports happening. So what do you do on your Cowboys channel? YouTube.com/Jeff Kavanaugh, and check 1053thefan.com every day. So what do you do for content? I need you guys. Just leave in the comments what you want to talk about tomorrow. If you're somebody who's going to leave a comment today about how you're real mad about the beginning of this video, it's cool. You can just unsubscribe. I won't miss you. It'll be okay. And I wish you well in the rest of your life. So just leave in the comments what you want to talk about tomorrow. I'll catch you guys on the radio, okay?